Now for more insight into the Toyota crisis, we want to bring in someone who knows Washington and the auto industry. Andy Card, perhaps best known as President Bush's White House Chief of Staff, but he's also a former Secretary of Transportation and GM's top lobbyist. He's with me now here in Washington at the museum. Good to see you. Thanks for the time today. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Peter. Good to be with you.
You have unique perspective, both being part of the industry as well as part of Washington, part of the regulatory structure here. What do you make of this Toyota situation? How serious it is? Is it going to get worse before it gets better?
Hopefully it won't get any worse. This has not been a good time for Toyota. I actually have confidence in the regulatory agencies, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. When I was there, I found them to be very professional and very thorough, and I'm confident that when Congress takes a look at the work that they've done, they'll find that they did the right thing. The question is, did Toyota do the right thing? And I'm not sure that Toyota was as transparent as they should have been in this regulatory question that had to be answered by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. But I'm actually even more concerned about what Toyota has not done for the consumer. I think they should have been a little more early in calling attention to the problem and the solution, offering, I'm going to say, some empathy and some sympathy for the customers in trying to fix the problem. Toyota has a great reputation, and they certainly had a great reputation for safety. I want them to get that reputation back, and I want those plants in the United States to be opened back up for business. We need all the job creation we can get, and we want to have a good, vibrant economy, and I know that the Toyota manufacturing base in the United States is quite important. But
to some extent, do you think Toyota took America for granted? Certainly, its track record here, very successful, but this is a problem, as you and I were talking about before, not just in the U.S.
I'm not sure it was just the United States that Toyota was concerned about. I actually think their global footprint has been damaged by this recall effort. The safety concerns were also safety concerns in Europe and other places where Toyota sells vehicles. So they've got a bigger problem than just the U.S. But they have to deal with the regulatory challenges of the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration first. I'm glad that Congress is going to conduct these hearings and oversight and take a look at it. And I hope Toyota has learned a lesson. I think they've got to be a little more transparent earlier in the process when they see problems. And they actually probably hear about the problems even before the regulators do.
Let me ask you this. If Toyota were to come to Andy Card right now and say, how do we fix this problem going forward? How do we fix this problem up on Capitol Hill at these hearings next week? What would you recommend to them? Should Akio Toyoda come himself and testify?
Well, the CEO of the company is always the most credible voice on behalf of the company. It shows great sincerity. It shows that the company is very serious about it. But I'm not going to second guess how Toyota will handle it. It's a great company, and they've done a terrific job in the United States. All of the manufacturers have learned from Toyota, but now is time for Toyota to step up and do the right thing and do it quickly.
Now, you said that your experience in government, NHTSA was an admirable agency. There are others here who are questioning why NHTSA didn't spot these problems sooner, why these cars weren't off the road sooner. But you don't share that. You don't think regulators here are to blame for any of this?
My experience was that the regulators took their job very seriously. They didn't allow for any outside pressure to dictate how they did their business, and I found them to be very responsible. So, no, I don't think they're part of the problem. I actually think they're part of the solution. Now, that doesn't mean that the companies share the information with the regulators as quickly as they should frequently, and that may be the case here. I just don't know.
The numbers here, some people I've talked to have tried to put this into perspective that, yes, there have been some horrible situations. We've had fatalities here with these cars, but Toyota sold a lot of vehicles in this country. There are a lot of vehicles sold in this country which basically nobody ever hears of the cars that operate perfectly. Are we making too much of this?
Well, I don't think we're making too much of it. This is a safety challenge for Toyota. Right now, it's a branding problem for them. The customers are losing confidence in the Toyota brand, and that's a concern. So they have a corporate responsibility and a shareholder responsibility. They also have to make sure their customers are well serviced. I actually think that they can overcome the regulatory problems that they've had and work closely with the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and do it quickly and put it behind them, move forward. I'm optimistic that it'll happen, but they learned a valuable lesson.
Let me ask you a question that's been raised quietly here in Washington by backers of Toyota and others. Some governors have raised this issue. Does the United States government have a conflict of interest in raising these issues with a foreign car maker at the same time taxpayers have an equity stake in Chrysler and General Motors?
I don't think that the U.S. government has a conflict of interest. I actually believe the regulators, the safety regulators, take their job so seriously. They're not going to skew the safety investigations to suit one manufacturer over another, even if the taxpayers are part owners of General Motors and Chrysler.
You said the regulators. What about members of Congress this. Again, there have been questions about whether the motives of some members of Congress. We've got a few from the state of Michigan, for example, very involved in this
members of
investigation.
Congress are there not only to do what's best for the national interest, but they're also there to represent their constituents. And I understand that. The members of Congress from Michigan and Kentucky, with regard to Toyota, for example, they'll play a prominent role in helping to defend the jobs in their state. And I'm going to say they'll pay attention to their constituents first, but they'll do the right thing. But in terms of the federal bureaucracy, I am confident that the career bureaucrats at the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration will not allow any parochial interest to get in the way of them doing the right thing.
Let me just ask you finally, what about the risk that this recall effort goes far beyond Toyota? We've already seen other companies start to announce safety problems that they will feel the obligation, given what's happened with Toyota, to recall on even things that otherwise they previously might not have chosen to do that.
I actually have found most of the automobile manufacturing companies to be very responsible about trying to identify defects and fixing those defects pretty early. Now, there are 3 different steps at least that companies go through before they have to go to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and have a massive recall. They can do notices to dealers and say, when someone comes in to service their car, fix this. If it's a real safety problem where consumers will be at great risk, yes, they should jump to the cause and fix it right away. But I don't think that's the case with most of these instances where the companies are coming forward and say, we're going to fix this. This is a responsible thing to do. And, right now, the economy is in the tank, and we want to get it back. Let's talk about creating jobs.
All right. Andy Card, as always, appreciate the time. Thanks for joining us here on Bloomberg.
Thank you, Peter.